Hello, Jumpstart core members. I hope you guys are having great days behind you, and hopefully you guys can get great days ahead of you, and that you are learning a lot from all these foundations of children's learning. I was really excited to see all the other videos done by Evan and Crystal and Anita, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of the activities. And I am here to teach you about print and the foundations of the importance of print for children. And the reason why print is so important, because really it is a segue and a scaffolding into children's reading. And we'll get more into it as we go further, but I really believe that the more that you can organically expose children to print, the more secure they are on taking those opportunities to try to read and engage in words. And I've seen it over and over and over again in so many different ways, how this is successful. So let's go ahead and move forward into laying the foundation for reading and supporting language and literacy development for our preschool children. Now, this is usually done in a two-part session, but because we're not meeting in person and I'm recording this video, we're going to do it in one. Dun, dun, dun. So you, the participants, hopefully after going through both these sections, will be able to describe the development of print and knowledge in children, explain maybe the 3 strategies that enhance the development of print knowledge in children, and then plan for practice strategies with the children, because we know we're not going into the classroom. So here is kind of our agenda. And let's get to it. Dun, 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 dun. You can tell I'm used to working with kids. So, Introduction to Print Knowledge. So this is Elmer's Friend by David Mckee. Ahmed Al-Hamdi, it translated it into the language of Arabic. If you look down at the bottom, you'll be able to see some kind of translation. Now, I'm going to go further. There is some audio in this, and so let's hear. Right? So when we look at this, right, and we look at the words that appear on the page of the book, what can you tell about the Arabic language? If you were to ask me, it kind of looks like cursive characters, right? Okay. They're not obviously the same as English language. Now, going over further, if I click the animation, you see how the finger is drawn from right to left. When you read in Arabic, what it's telling us is that generally you read from right to left. Very different from the English language, because if you're reading the slide, we always read from left to right.
This says marhaba. Marhaba means hello.
Now, if I were to look at marhaba in this character, I would try to read it from, because this is the way we've learned language, left to right. And that spacing in the middle makes me feel like, is it 2 words? But luckily, this audio moving forward is going to tell us a little bit more about the word marhaba. Let's see. If I were to break it down, right, and then looking at these characters, I would say it would sound nothing like marhaba to me. But luckily, we have someone here to tell us in this audio how to break down this word.
There are 5 letters in the word marhaba. Mim, ra, ha, ba, alif.
So Now, print knowledge is understanding that print is a collection of symbols and that it follows certain patterns in the way it works, right? So that's what we're understanding, that print stands for something else, and understanding how print works in writing. So completely different. I know that's just a little snippet of what the Arabic language is, and the concept of print can be different from what we know here in the United States to where the language of Arabic is used. But it just kind of gives you a perspective on how print is really, really important for a child and for any of us. So when you think about this, what does this symbol stand for, right? And this is how symbols and print and everything, they all kind of, they flow together. And so we know, if you guys haven't answered yet, it stands for peace. What about this symbol? Usually when you go to any place, this usually stands for restroom. And this, right, stop. So we know right away what these symbols mean. And we have learned that these symbols stand for something else, right? So we want to teach the children that letters are symbols and there is meaning attached to these letters. Sounds like a big job, but we can do this. So the meaning to print. Now look at this photo, right? In this teacher, in this photo, this teacher is reading a story out loud to the children. Now I want you to pay attention to the little girl in the white shirt. She is 3. The little girl in the purple short is 4.5. Now, the difference is that when the 3-year-old hears the word cat, she thinks about the meaning of the word. And when the 4.5-year-old hears the word cat, right? See the difference? She thinks about the meaning of the word, but she also puts the print attached to it, C-A-T. And this is where you see the difference in learning what meaning of print is for the children. And that's why when you see children's books, sometimes a lot of the children's book have images that connect to the print, because it's a huge success tool to scaffold into reading. So why is print knowledge important? Let's think about this. Print knowledge relates to other early literacy practices, including phonological awareness. And when we think about phonological awareness, what we're thinking about is a, be, de, what it sounds like, what each letter sounds like, as well as language skills. Print knowledge helps children break the code of reading. And when we say break the code of reading, is that if a child is exposed to certain letters and words repeatedly, then they're more secure in reading a sentence. And print knowledge predicts later reading. So when we think of that, when we think of print knowledge, it's not really an isolated skill. It's necessary knowledge for learning to read. So children will later combine this knowledge of print with their phonological awareness skills. And then this is where I say they break the code of reading. So again, let's think about this. I just gave it to you. So think in your head, what is print knowledge and why is it important? Now, these knowledge checks are really, really important for you to jot down with a piece of paper because it will later help you support in your activities and assignments that you have to do. I mean, if you want the answer, then understanding that print stands for something else is why print knowledge is, what is print knowledge? And why is it important? Because print knowledge relates to other early literacy skills, including phonological awareness, as well as language skills and much more. So make sure you go back to the earlier part of this video. Oh, so building children's print knowledge. How do we do this? So now let's talk about it. building children's print knowledge. How does print knowledge grow? So how does it grow? It grows through print interest, right? And there's 4 ways. And first, children have to be interested in print. And what is interested in print, it really comes from reading with children. And the more you can read to children, the more that they get interested in what print is. And then through exposure and interaction with print, children can learn general concepts and specific features about print. And then, so the next slides will explain these concepts a little bit more in detail. So children learn that print is worthy of their time and attention. So print becomes an object worthy of interest as separate from pictures as children have increased experiences with print in their environment and in their books. This is a book. I'm just going to tell you that it's called The Book with No Pictures because ideally all it is print. But I will say that it is a child favorite. And it's a child favorite because of what the content is in this book. And this book is a huge testimony to the value of print. If you've never heard it, I will suggest you look it up whether on YouTube or maybe through your library. As we can get these things online and check it out. So yeah, it's pretty hilarious. And every time I read it, my kids love it. So here it says, it is the natural tendency for 3-year-olds to look primarily at the pictures and not at the print. This is how they kind of figure out what the words feel like or what they are. And when they look at print, they will more often, it'll be embedded in the photos. And over time, as children are exposed to books, then they begin to understand that print also carries meaning and not just pictures. Of course, because children are at different points in their development, they may be more or less kind of like into this. So look, most children look here, right? And if they look here, they see a bear, they see a potato, celery, right? Sometimes, depending on the development, they'll look in here. Now, right? Sugar, wrong. They'll ask, what is that bear saying? It's saying wrong. Do you see that? But they usually don't look here. So that's why when you're reading to children, it's always best to start off with books that have strong images that really, really correlate with the content in which we're reading. Now, if you look at here, where might 3-year-olds look? Let's think about this. If I was a 3-year-old or someone that worked at 3-year-olds, I would probably look at this little person trying to grab a boat. Or maybe I would look at the toys in the hand. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at the whole picture. Most likely here. So, print knowledge grows through exposure to print. Print interest grows through things children see in their environment. They see their special caregiver reading or writing with them. They may see some of their siblings or other older children in their house reading and writing, and these actions have like a strong impact on children. They begin to become interested in mimicking the behaviors they see around them. True story. I had a student, and I had the privilege of having her for 3 years, and when she was 4, she would come in and say, Teacher Gigi, I'm doing homework. And I was like, what is she doing homework? And she would get pieces of paper and stick it on a little clipboard and go get a crayon, and she would sit down and pretend that she was doing homework. And I had to think about it. I was just like, where is she getting this homework? is she doing dittos at home? Is she in another program that I don't know about? But what I forgot to realize is that she has an older sister, and her older sister had to sit down and do homework, who's like 4 years older than her. And what my student was doing is that she was copying what her older sister was doing. And when I was looking at what she was doing, she was really trying to do print that she was familiar with. Yes. So anyway, examples, when you think about some specific ways that children may see print in their environment, this is one. Other ways could be, maybe seeing their special caregiver write something down, their name around the classroom, which in any classroom, it is so important to put their name on or have name exposure, whether it's through a job board, their cubbies, their art, because what happens is that them repeatedly seeing where their name is that personal connection to them that naturally builds security of that child recognizing their name. So moving forward. So here, what we're going to do is watch a video. In this video clip, Dr. Laura Justice describes how print knowledge grows over time. And she uses writing samples to describe the process and growth that children experience through practice over time. Now, let's think. Before watching this video, I want you to take notes of this clip and include some things that you find that are really, really important. And then after watching this video, I want you to think of some insights. What are some things that based on the previous slides that you're seeing in here? All right, because basically what I want you to get from this video is that print knowledge grows when students become interested in print and they interact with it. All right, here we go.
Good evening. I am Susan Sandall, and I'm the co-director of the National Center on Quality Teaching and Learning. We are delighted tonight to welcome Dr. Laura Justice as our kickoff speaker for this lecture series. And I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Laura and her work. She is a professor in the School of Teaching and Learning at The Ohio State University. Her research interests focus on young children with developmental vulnerabilities in language and literacy. Her work examines the effects of teacher and parent interventions on children's learning. And I think it's important to note that Laura is in a college of education. She's on faculty in a college of education, and she is a speech language pathologist. So she approaches this work from those kind of dual perspectives, and I think that you'll hear that informs her work. She is a prolific writer and researcher. She has a long list of publications, including, I believe, at least 4 books and many research publications. Her work is supported by funding from ASHA, from NIH, from IES, and that just gives you a flavor of how well regarded her work is and the importance of what she's doing. Tonight, as you see, her topic is Promoting Young Children's Knowledge and Print, Designing Systematic Early Literacy Environments. And please help me welcome Laura Justice. We're delighted that she's here.
So as you can tell from the title, I'm going to talk about young children, early literacy development, which I'm going to refer to as knowledge about print. I'll dig into that a little bit more deeply, and how to design early literacy interventions that enhance the early skills of young children who need those early boosts for various reasons. I'd like to point out that when we talk about early literacy in young children, it's nothing to get squeamish about, and some people do. Talking about young children as readers and writers is a fairly new topic. It's probably only about 10 or 15 years that this began to be somewhat common parlance to discuss young children as being on a pathway to reading and writing. And when I talk about young children's skills, I'm talking about things like this. This came, I cut and pasted it out of an article in Reading Research Quarterly. It was an example of a 2-year-old's writing of his name. When I talk about early reading and writing in young children, I'm talking about things like that. I'm also talking about things like this. That's my little boy. And he has contributed a lot to my thinking on this topic, as well as my older child. But here he is at 4, and you can see that he had written some letters behind his name. Early alphabet knowledge is one of the best predictors of future decoding skill. That's been very strongly documented in a number of papers. This is actually only about 2 weeks ago, my husband texted me, and he said, Griffin wrote his name in cursive, and that's what you see. And it's like fake cursive. There's nothing, I mean, he's like, his name is Griffin, Griffin, and you can see he's just writing the capital letters and drawing lines between them. And so that's an example of an early reading and writing behavior. And as cute as these things are, they are fundamentally important. And I'm going to share with you some of the research that shows us that as cute as these things are, they're also very developmentally significant. This is one of my favorites for 2 reasons. This is on a whiteboard in our kitchen, and this is about 6 months ago. So he was just short of his 5th birthday. And Griffin was writing the word hello under the model. My dad. Oh my God, it's like multiple weird Freudian slips. My husband had written, this is being recorded, but my husband had written the word hello, and Griffin was modeling it. And this is cute because we all teased him about writing this bad word. And he's like, no, it says hell, and there's the O. And he wrote this little O. And the reason this is so exciting from a developmental perspective is it shows you that he, as sophisticated as this looks, he's got his letters, he's writing, he's encoding, he's decoding, but he doesn't yet know what a word is. And so for him, a word is not yet squarely on a single line with the invariant parentheses around what a word is. And that usually comes sometime after the 5th birthday. And people call that a watershed event in the life of reading development for kids, because once they realize what a word is, then they start to really study inside a word and learn all of the interesting orthography beholden to the English language. So that's a great example. This is another example of a very important early literacy achievement. The child's first production in writing of their own name. Children tend to learn their first initial before any other letter, about 11 times more likely to learn their first letter as their first initial as their first letter. And then they start to learn the additional letters in their name as well. I always tell people, name your kids a long name because it gives them an edge. That's not proven, but I will prove it. There is glimpses of evidence that kids who have longer names know more letters and they have better alphabet skills. So go with like, well, you can come Jezebel or something like that. But this is actually an important predictor of children's future reading achievement. Kids who can write their name at 4 and 4.5 tend to be better readers several years down the road. This is, what if this lecture was an hour of looking at my kids writing? I just have to show you this one because this is a very important early achievement in what we call text structure knowledge. And this is, again, my son, and he's actually he's made a grocery list and it says banana, apple, apple. And what you see here, and this is gonna go to the heart of what print knowledge is he is internalizing various strict rules about how we organize and use print for different purposes. So here, without any direct instruction ever, he is creating a list and he understands that a list needs to be like this. And that there are specific rules governing this particular type of text structure.
So, great video. Fun fact, my daughter's name is Elizabeth. And when I named her, I really thought, oh my gosh, she's never going to learn her name. Because when you think about it, Elizabeth, that's 9 letters compared to some of her friends in preschool who had Sam, S-A-M. But hearing that makes me feel a lot less guilty. So, but anyway, going forward, print knowledge grows over time, right? And so we just heard and we talked about how print knowledge grows over time. And so now moving forward, and when you think about all those prompting questions that I had you think about, right, is a lot of true statements and facts. I just want to put one disclaimer in there, is that sometimes our children don't have a special caregiver that can read or write. And that's okay. That's why these children come to us. So that way we can give them the tools on how to do this and make their special caregiver feel confident in growing this development as well. So anyway, going forward in these next slides, we're going to talk about what we know about the children's development of print knowledge based on the samples of their writing, and what we will use writing samples as a window into the children's print. So going on to this. Here we see maybe a child scribbled on a page while pretending to make a grocery list. All right. What was reported is that this child wrote milk and bread, right? So how do we support this, right? You see that someone obviously has wrote milk and bread into that. So what we learned is that we are acknowledging the child's attempt into writing. And that's important because children's earliest marks may be drawing and scribbling, right? And what they're trying to do, what the brain is trying to do, right, and later we'll understand that, is make a distinction between writing and drawing. So when they begin to scribble without any kind of direction, so what I mean by that is that they're all over the place. Eventually, with more exposure, they finally begin to scribble horizontally, and that's the way that they write. And so this is just important. I know with the children that I teach, we just acknowledge the action. We never say no, or this, and that's not how you do it, because that disencourages a child, and we just want to acknowledge. So for instance, if a child came to me and said, and I gave me this, I would say, oh, what does this say? And the child will tell me milk and bread. I would not say, oh, well, this is how you spell milk. No, what I would say is like, oh, okay, milk, bread, right? Do you see how there was no interaction with the child, with me and the child saying, no, it doesn't, or this is how you spell milk and bread? We really just want to acknowledge that child's action. So going further. So with that here, this is increasing general print and knowledge. We obviously see here, right? What do we know about this sample? What can we see about this sample? Okay, what I'll say is that it's gone through many directions now into what we call the horizontal way, right? So this is a 3-year-old, and this 3-year-old is scribbling from left to right. This is a sample that shows that she is now moving from multi-directions into a directionality of English writing. Oh, what do you see here? What can we learn about this child's print knowledge? Yeah, we're starting to see some difference between the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old. So this child makes linear marks from left to right on a page. And there are no distinct letters, even though in my head I would be like, oh, there's an I, there's an O, there's a B, maybe an A, right? But this child has some understanding about directionality, which are general print concepts, and beginning to learn specific print concepts such as alphabet letters. Look at that E. I love it. Dun, 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 dun. All right, we're going forward. Oh, so let's look about this. This sample was written by by a child and named Cole. And so when asked about the writing, the child said, "This is who the story is about," and pointed to the first line. Okay. And then he pointed to the second line and said, "These are places he went." Right? And so what was asked, when we think about it, let's ask, what can we learn about this child's print knowledge from this sample? So as children begin to gain knowledge about letters, they often repeat those letters in the early writing. So they usually repeat letters that they're confident in writing. And sometimes they'll take chances on other letters, right? So for example, in this sample, Cole repeats the letters of his name to convey his message. And so regarding his print knowledge, we can see that he clearly has directionality from left to right and knows some letters. And most of the letters he knows are from his name. But that's okay, right? We never want to say, oh, that doesn't say those are places you went. We just want to acknowledge the action, so the child can move in confidence when we expose them to more print knowledge. Now, this is an example of a child spelling of the word sad, right? And what can we learn about this child's print knowledge? We can learn that the child is beginning to use knowledge of sounds and letters to make words. This child has the knowledge of sounds and letter names. Going on to the next one. Now let's look at this. What can we learn about this child's print knowledge from this sample? We can learn that this child is learning specific concepts about print. There is a connection of knowledge of the print and sounds. And we see that because what letters are being written? It's the first and the last, the beginning and the ending. It's amazing. Oh, sorry. So with that said, print knowledge grows in so many different ways, right? And so the general ways are usually how to hold a book, or that print goes from left to right. That's how we would categorize general. It also grows in specific ways when children learn letters, letter names and sounds. So that's like the specific is like the alphabet knowledge. And so alphabet knowledge is knowing the names and sounds of the letters. So let's recall that in that video that Dr. Laura Justice was talking about, that she said early alphabet knowledge is one of the strongest ways or introductions to later reading skills. So let's think about this. What is your favorite letter now, or who can remember what their favorite letter is when they were little, right? And usually when you think about this, most of us would say it would be the first letter of our name. That's why sometimes some of us get our like initial necklaces, or we get our initial, and this is just an assumption, you know, we get things that, a keychain that has our initial, right? There is something special to us about our own names. So likewise, there is something special to a children about their names. And so just as the video said in her lecture, Dr. Laura Justice mentioned in her lecture that children are 11 times more likely to know the letter in their name before knowing other letters of the alphabet. True story. After the first letter of their name, they are likely also to know the other letters in their name. And that's when they start really writing. And so sometimes I had a student called Esperanza, and it was brilliant over time. In the beginning, she could only, when you think of Esperanza, Esperanza, just like Elizabeth, 9 letters, she could only write 5 letters at the age of 4 in her name. By the time she had left me and get ready to go to kindergarten because she was 4 going on 5, she was able to spell all 9 letters of her name. Her Z was backwards, and that is completely fine. But it was because over the exposure of presenting her name in her classroom environment, and we'll go through that she was able to confidently spell her whole name. So, how does alphabet knowledge grow? Right? Well, first, children learn the letters in their names. Second, children tend to learn uppercase letters before lowercase letters. True story. And then lastly, children use letter names to help them learn letter sounds. So and for instance, like Esperanza. Now, when you think about Esperanza and you think about the letter ne est, right? So she was able to hear the letters in her name and was able to break out to read that letter to the word nest. Oh, look at this. So in this writing, so how does alphabet knowledge grow? In this writing sample, we see the letter M repeated. The child's name is Macy. She was 3 years old, and this sample was collected. When asked what she was writing about, she said that she was writing a story about a princess. Right now, the letter in her writing don't represent the sound and the message that she was trying to convey. And you will see her writing consist of repetition with the letter M, which is super, super common. So children typically know the first letter of their name before other letters. So M, oh, sorry. This is amazing about videos. Let me take this out. There, okay. So it says that M appears in her writing because research shows that children are, what's the magic number? 11 times more likely to know the first letter of their name. So how does alphabet knowledge grow? So children tend to learn uppercase letters before lowercase letters. Remember, I said that before. So as you may experience, maybe in your previous time working with children, or maybe not, and that's fine, that little ones tend to recognize uppercase before lowercase, right? It's easy for children to distinguish between these forms. And so, in contrast to the uppercase letter forms, look at these lowercase b, p, and d. They are so familiar, but much less distinct. This might be one of the reasons why lowercase letters are typically learned later in development in alphabet knowledge. So if we go back, can I go back? I don't want to mess things up. Oh, no. Anyway. There, if we go back, see these letters and the curves, they're much more distinct. They're strength in uppercase letters as opposed to this. And I see this very commonly when I work with kids. They always do uppercase, and usually it isn't till they're like if they're end of pre-K into kindergarten that we start seeing them practice these lowercase letters. In fact, even with my own daughter, when she went into kindergarten, she was still doing uppercase letters, and that is super common. So with that said, some parents or caregivers, right, and teachers may question the importance of learning the letter names at all. And so the knowledge of letter name provides students a scaffold for learning letter sounds. Children can easily learn letter sounds from their names that contain the sounds. The idea is demonstrated in our next activity that we're going to do. So we will see how the use of letter names can assist students with their letter and sound knowledge. Oh, all right, let's think about this. So usually here we would think about maybe writing some examples of what on a chart to work through this activity, but we can't. I want you to kind of refer back to slide number 3, or well, the increasing specific print knowledge to understand, to kind of understand this activity. Think of which part of the letter name provides a clue for its sound. Going back to where the child was asked to spell the word hop, and they use the word H, and then they use the word P. And that's how children really begin to break down the concept of print. Done. So I'm going to move forward because this activity would kind of look like this, right? So the beginning and the end and the ambiguous. What does that word ambiguous mean for them? So teaching letters name is important, right? And then here we would just ask you to turn to a classmate, and then you guys can just review what you learn. How does print knowledge grow? I want you to think about this question and go back in the back of the video and think about how print knowledge grows, because this is something that could come up in one of your assignments. What I can tell you is that print interest, right? Children learn that print is worthy of their time and attention, and print interest grows through children when they see things in their environment, such as their special caregivers, reading and writing. The general concepts, like print concepts, it's how that grows is exposure to print through reading or writing, and interaction with print, same through reading and writing. And then specific features like alphabet knowledge, they learn the first letter of their name. Then they learn all the letters in between. And then they learn uppercase letters before lowercase. And additionally, they use letter names to help them learn letter sounds. All right, moving forward. Building children's print knowledge. Now, we're going to explain the importance of this topic. There are 3 practices for building print knowledge. Here they are. Create a print-rich environment. Now, I really want you to think about this because we're not in the classroom, and usually you would have your mentor teacher or the classroom kind of build this print-rich environment. And I really want you to think about, how are we going to build a print-rich environment through this virtual platform? This is going to create creativity and a lot of interaction from you. But that's what we're here for, to help you look at opportunities on how to do so. The next one is that you're going to draw children's attention to print. How are we going to do that? Possibly through these read alouds or through these activities that you're going to do through these with these children. And then you play alphabet games. Now, alphabet games are a lot of fun. And they're a lot of fun because you can make them very interactive. When we think about alphabet games, maybe you guys are thinking, what letter is this? But working with these kids on this virtual platform, we're going to get a lot more creative than that. But here we're going to show you some basic opportunities if you were working with children in a classroom, what that may look like. So practice 1, create a print-rich environment. So here they are. What does a print-rich environment look like? Well, it looks like there are writing materials accessible for the kids. So like, are there markers, crayons, colored pencils that are accessible to the kids and they can grab anytime they want? Are there signs and labels around the classroom? So like when we go into a store, we usually notice a sign before we notice the word underneath the sign that let us know that there's a bathroom over there, or maybe we're supposed to slow down here. Is there a display of alphabet? Now, most classrooms do have a display of alphabet from A to Z. Some classrooms, like in my classroom, that's not something that I did. I believe that just having keywords all over the place was enough for the child. Dictations mean is they're the children's words around their classroom. So if they draw something, was there an adult there to dictate what the child stated what they were drawing? Are children's writing on display? And remember, writing can be a spectrum of examples based on where the child is at. Is there print and learning centers? And are there books? So, writing materials. What do you notice about these environments? What writing materials are in this classroom? So remember in the beginning, I said, do they have access to writing tools? It looks like these kids do. Now, what do you notice about this classroom environment? I see a lot of names and a name attached to a photo. This, I can't tell you how important this is, because if a child has a friend that they really, really enjoy playing with, I've seen so often that the child will recognize their own name, and then they'll start recognizing their special friend's name. Oh, look at this. Now, what do you notice about this environment? So many displays of the alphabet are important, right? I'm not going to say that they're not. And it's really important. Do you see how low it is? I think usually, whenever I was in a classroom environment, when I was younger, the alphabet was kind of a decorative piece on the wall. But what we've learned over time and evidence is that when we put things lower to the ground where the child can look at it at their level based on their height, then the child uses it a lot more. So with that said, this colorful display and teacher-initiated interaction with the display encourages the interest and attention to print. I really love that there are also photos with the children's name, and that way it gives this like organic way of maybe putting the L together in London and the O together, and it allows for natural interest. So there, in this picture, I will say there are like many opportunities for interaction in print, because even with visuals like plants, and you look over here, dove and eggs, this is a very print-rich environment for the children in the classroom. So, dictations. This is what I was talking about. So after a child has drawn a picture, it is common for their teacher to ask the child to dictate, to actually state, what is it that they draw? What is it that they drew? And then the teacher will then draw what this child said about the picture, so that students can generally remember their words because they said them. So displaying these dictations on the wall in the classroom encourages children to return to this writing and try to read their words based on their memory. So also through writing their words, you are drawing their attention to the connection between their spoken and written words. So yeah, this is actually great. And this is something that we can encourage the kids to do at home as well. Children's writing on display. What do you notice about this environment? I know it's kind of blurry, I'm sorry. This is a display of children's writing in the classroom. And what we'll see on the next slide is what we get up a close view, you can see what their writing looks like. So what do you notice? Right? As you see this display of children's writing, these writings illustrate an appreciation for children's work, which is so important. We really, really want to give these children the confidence in all of this. Giving attention to this work may encourage reluctant writers to begin writing and displayed students to continue their progress with print, right? I had a child, his name was Michael, And one of the activities after circle time, in order for them to get snack, is that they would vote what park they would want to go to, right? And so I would give them the marker, and I put something in behind them, just because I had a lot of children that were really scared to write, because not scared, but not secure to write, because sometimes their letters didn't come out like their friends. So I put something in front of them so they could feel confident. But I had this one child who knew visually what the M was supposed to look like, but refused to do it because he knew that he could not make the M like it was supposed to look like. And this took a lot of scaffolding. And every attempt that he tried to do, I just said, wow, you made that line in M. And it really took a lot of that encouraging and that positive language to him to finally feel confident enough to accept his version of the M of where he was at now. So I just really want to put that real life concept into how important it is for children to feel secure in what they're writing, because if they do not feel secure, just like my little Michael, they will shut down, and that is it. Printed learning centers. So what do you notice about this environment? This is something I love to do. Everything has a name, right? You see the window, ventana, that you can see that there are some other languages represented in the classroom, maybe hopefully based on the languages that the children are speaking. So it doesn't have to be limited to what the children are writing. Print-rich environments usually contain labels, and these labels can be on bins or labels all over the classroom. So for instance, in this picture on the left, we see a display of doctor tools and labels of these tools. And on the bottom right picture is the science center. And in the Science Center, there are seed packets and there's labels on them with the seed names. So there are so many different ways on to provide a print-rich environment. Last, what do you notice about this environment? We notice that there are print-rich walls behind the teacher and also in the cabinet in front of them. So this is really important. I think in my professional brain, I think it's too much print, and sometimes a child can get overwhelmed, and sometimes there's opportunity to simplify it and then to add, but you guys will know your children once you work with them. Also, the classroom library is where we can introduce a lot of print to the children. And that's kind of what we're going to be providing for these children at home, because you guys are going to pre-record yourself reading read alouds and other activities. So this is kind of like their gateway to the classroom, right? Oh, dramatic play. So we all know dramatic play in a classroom is essential for a child to explore their imagination and promote social skills, right? And here in dramatic play, there are so many print-rich labels, as you can see. This is actually quite cute. Same. Oh. Here's another one. It's asking, what would you see? What would you add? I'm not going to give you an answer. I'm just going to let you guys look through it. All right, let's go. Classroom self-reflection. So here it says, use the classroom literacy environment checklist. Unfortunately, we're not in the classroom. So you can't really do this, but if you ever step in the classroom, you can just basically say, I'm creating a positive literacy environment by, like, what would you change in the classroom that you were working in? But I really want you to think about this. How am I creating a positive literacy environment working with these children online? How can you improve this literacy platform environment You know, is it that when you're talking to the kids and you say, and you're playing this alphabet game, right? And for whatever interest, you see a child write their first letter of the name. Do you grab a writing tool and do you grab a piece of paper and you acknowledge, oh, I see what you're trying to do. You just wrote your letter. Wow, that's great. Kind of deal. Does that make sense? All right, moving forward. Encouraging print interaction. So usually you do this activity, and with a partner, you would choose an area of your classroom and you would generate 2 ideas on how you can make this area more print rich. I really want you to put that in the concept of virtual teaching with the kids and think of 2 ideas of how you can make a print rich environment on this virtual platform. Is it this way, right? Or even acknowledging a child's scribble as being print and asking, hey, what are you writing there, right? To give the child the opportunity to say, I'm writing about what I ate. Oh, okay, what does that say? Oh, there's a natural opportunity to generate the child's words onto something that they're doing. Oh, sorry. So moving forward, dun, 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 dun. Setting up the classroom for children to interact with print. You see a lot of print here, right? And so adding print to the classroom is the first step. However, it's important that we encourage print interaction to get the most out of the print visible in the classroom. So I'm going to go forward. And we're now going to watch a teacher in this clip talk about print, referencing to the sorry guys, or drawing children's attention to print and children's interacting with print. The teacher is describing how they learn about uppercase and lowercase spacing and learn the songs that they are singing can be available in written form. They can interact with their songs that the teacher has written on the chart of paper and following their own words. All right, let's see what this video is all about.
Print referencing is one of the ways we teach early literacy in our Head Start program. The children learn about uppercase and lowercase letters. They learn about how to properly space the words to look like a sentence. And they learn that what we're singing about, in this instance, what we're singing about, is available in print. And they learn how to trace it and read the words that are there.
Nice. That woman's name is Heather Floyd. I had the honor of linking with her because she was really curious about our virtual teaching project that I did in Shelter in Place, and she absolutely loved it. So the fact that you guys are watching her video and the fact that she loves what we are creating for you guys to do with the children virtually is great. So let's talk about this, right? So what do you notice that is happening here in this classroom, right? There's a menu. It says pizza, pancake, and potato. So let's read this. Miss Mary notices Jose is playing in a restaurant center during free play. Jose is passing out the menu and pretending to be a waiter, and Miss Mary's pretending to be a customer. Miss Mary, hi boys and girls, may I join your restaurant? Jose says yes. So Miss Mary says, I'm getting hungry. What do you have on your menu today? Jose says, I have pizza, pancake, and potato. Miss Mary, what does she say? Wonderful. May I have some pancakes, please? Jose says, here you go. Miss Mary, thank you, Jose. Pizza, pancake, and potato all start with p. What? Do you know what letter that sound is? P. Jose says P. Miss Mary says, you're right. Let's find the letter P and put this menu together. So you see how organic that sounded? That is basically what we want to do with the children. So now, let's see. We're going to watch this video. And it says print, interact, child direct. Let's see what it gives us.
I wrote my name and I'm wondering, it says name of provider. Does that mean the name of my doctor?
Yeah.
Name of provider. So Dr.
And who do this?
Dr. Thomas. Do you need Dr. Thomas' records to fax to the office?
Yeah. At that time.
Okay, here you go. Do you have my insurance already? My insurance card? No? Okay, I have my card over here. It's shiny and silver. Okay, I finished all my paperwork, so I'm gonna sit in the waiting room until a doctor's available to see me for my symptoms. You're ready? Hello, my name is Teacher Quinn Flanagan. You're gonna take me over somewhere?
Okay, I just have to say, I love that interaction because she really used real life concepts into what a child may hear when they go to the doctor with their special grown-up. And the fact that she brought in the concepts like the insurance card, the provider, which is something that, you know, we all hear when we go into a check-in desk, when we go to the doctor, and how she was encouraging interaction with the child to actually bridge that connection into print. All right, let's go on to the next one.
There's 4 people in here. So when you come in here, right, this is what you can do in here. You can,
1, 2,
Desiree, can you help me tell Maze what we do in here is we look for these bugs with our binoculars. Here, Maze. Or you can take pictures with the camera. Sarah, show Maze what you're doing with this. Tell Maze what you're doing with this right here. Tell Maze. Tell Maze. Say, Maze, you can also write down what you find in here. Tell him.
So that video was quite fantastic because it looks like she was trying to help these children through, I don't want to call it a conflict, but a situation, but she naturally encouraged literacy and print in this interaction. So another great way to organically introduce it without it being so teacher directed. And when I say teacher directed, I mean like coming from the teacher. She found this opportunity and how to do so. All right, let's look at this one.
Okay, go ahead. You want to feed her? Are you stirring the cupcakes? Should we put them on the platter? Are they warm?
No.
We could put them on the platter for lunchtime. Oh, those are delicious. Oh, thank you for the grapes.
I like baked mac and cheese.
Baked mac and cheese is the best. That's when it's all gooey and cheesy. Let me try some peppers. Some cantaloupe? Thank you. Oh, I have lots of fruit. Let me try a bite of cantaloupe.
That's not good.
I like it. Well, you're a fruit eater. Do you like cantaloupe? How about some grapes for you? Are you putting them in the bowls? Does it smell good? Let me smell some peach. Smell that. Delicious. Did you want some pepper? Here, we can put the pepper.
Okay, that was a great dramatic play interaction. And I love how the adult or teacher that was playing with the child or children was really confirming that child's play and introducing amazing vocabulary to them. But Let's think, did you see any print anywhere? Was there any opportunity for print? What do you think you would add to this interaction, or maybe even to the environment? I'm just going to leave you with those prompting questions. I have the answer, but I want to see if you guys do. So with that said, let's see. Let's really, really think about these last activities, and let's think about other ways that you can generate or encourage interaction with print in those videos, right? So we're going to go ahead and skip this and skip that. And so, what you call it? So now what we think about what we just covered, we covered introduction to print, how to build children's knowledge in print, and we're practicing on how to create a print-rich environment, right? So we need to apply these print knowledge teaching practices into our children's engagement and think about how we can implement these, right? So I'm going to keep going forward, and that's it. So if you guys have any questions, you guys feel free to ask these questions in your assignments. I'll be go ahead and posting up some assignments when it comes to print knowledge. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this and look forward to seeing you guys in class. All right, bye-bye.